Do I use this?
You're on, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I've presented this program that we're going to be going over the next few nights all across the country in different places, and I've always called it Shared Care Choices, SCC. It was easy for me to remember because those were the initials of my alma mater, Southern California College, so SCC. A couple of months ago, I was doing this presentation in Boston, and they called it the first of conversations community-wide on difficult conversations, and I liked it. So I started just calling it Difficult Conversations. So I've written up here something that Charlie Brown wrote in 1961, that there's 3 things that he has learned not to talk about. Not to talk about religion, not to talk about politics, and not to talk about the mysteries of the Great Pumpkin. For all of us, next week is Thanksgiving. We'll be sitting down with friends or family, and they're all hoping there's something we don't talk about. So what else would be a difficult conversation to have with family members or friends? End of life? What else? We can talk about the Great Pumpkin. Any other difficult conversations that you have been told not to bring up at the family table? Okay, divorce. Money. Anything you're hoping that that little outside family member doesn't talk about? Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? That's it? What an easy group. Let's not talk about who's not there. Okay, so, who's missing? We don't want to talk about that individual. Why? Anyone else? Okay, tonight we're going to talk about the difficult conversations surrounding the end of life. And they are difficult conversations to have. And one of the things that you have in front of you is this booklet called 5 Wishes. And we're going to walk through this over the next several weeks. But I want you to start thinking about when you've gone to an attorney and done, what do they call those end-of-life procedures, the living wills, who's your proxy, and they bundle it all up and give it to you in a nice bound folder, and they say, these are very important documents. Be sure to lock them away somewhere. Put them in a safe deposit box, put them in the safe, because you don't want them just laying around. Well, I'm going to tell you the opposite. And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to tell you just the opposite based on some experiences. It is important for you to share your care choices. And this booklet gives you a tool to sit down with children, aunts, uncles, neighbors, anybody and everybody, and share your choices. Too many times, people have gone to the emergency room. When I was a hospital chaplain, I saw many times that families would come in and we would be saying, what are your decisions? How do you want the doctors to proceed? And usually, most of the family could agree, but there would always be one that would say, oh no. I had a very good friend who had 4 siblings. She was the 5th child. Their father was in his 90s, had been in poor health, and he was at the end of life. And they all agreed to allow a natural death, except for one, who said, oh no, we have to keep Dad alive at all cost, no matter what. And so that's what the hospital did. I said, doesn't he have an advance directive? Doesn't he have anything where he's written down? We can't find it. He lived for about 2 weeks in a miserable state. After he passed away, they got access to a safe deposit box, and there was his advance directive. And he had never shared it with anyone. So my advice is to take this 5 Wishes booklet and use it as a tool to talk to your loved ones, share, because it's not only about advance directives, but it's really your wishes for how you want to be cared for at the end of life stages. We find in Scripture that there are a lot of difficult conversations. The scripture that, the story that I remember most is the story of Christ and the Samaritan woman, where he approached her at the well and began to have a conversation with her. Well, why was that such a difficult conversation? She was a Samaritan, he was a Jew. She was a woman, he was a man. For him to approach her and start a conversation, or even for her to approach him, was unheard of in their culture. It was just counterintuitive to everything that was happening, and yet he did. And we see that he ministered to her in love, that he ministered her in compassion and in kindness. So it's important to realize that throughout Scripture, we see example after example where Christ has modeled for us those difficult conversations. I also want us to, for those of you that have a Bible, to look in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Because there's a roadmap for us about how to have those difficult conversations. Once we have decided that we want to have them, that we're going to sit down with our loved ones and we're going to have this difficult conversation, the scriptures give us a roadmap. Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Let your conversations be always, not some of the time, but be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Full of grace and seasoned with salt. I look at grace as being on the side of 4. The other person as well as the relationship. Salt is the truth of the reality of what you need to say. So when you start to have this difficult conversation, it's not about you. It really is about your family member. You are doing this for them. This is a great gift. We're getting ready to approach the Christmas season, and we're talking about gifts, and what do I give the person that has everything? Give them peace of mind, so that if they have to make a decision, they know what your end-of-life choices are. And as we go through this book, you'll see that it's very explicit, and you get to write in what you want, cross off what you don't. There's a section in one of the wishes where it says, I would like someone sitting next to me as I'm approaching the end of life talking to me. And I crossed it out. And my wife said, you don't want me sitting next to you, talking to you? I said, no. I want you sitting next to me. I want you holding my hand, but I don't want you talking to me. She was like, okay. I said, do you want me to do that for you? Do you want me to sit next to you and hold your hand and talk to you? She said, oh, yes. And I said, really? What would I talk about? So she gave me a list. And we put it right in her 5 Wishes booklet. And now I know that she's given me the gift of what she wants. And since it's kind of like not my area, because like most men, I don't know how to talk, especially at that time, she's given me the list. She wants me to talk about our first date. She wants me to talk about when we got married. She wants, just our whole life. I said, we've lived it. I know, but I want to hear about it. Okay. So it's down to that level of detail here. But what a gift she's given to me if that time comes that I need to minister hope, minister comfort, minister encouragement to her. I know exactly how to do that. And for me, more important, she knows I don't want to hear it. And she will do that. But otherwise, just think, she would have sat there and talked to me. And I would have sat there being quiet. It wouldn't have been comforting. It wouldn't have been what either one of us needed. So this is a tool that is very valuable. That's what I mean about the SALT. You have to be honest with your loved ones or your family or whoever you're going to share this with. And you have to be full of grace. This is about helping them to help you. It's about empowering them to make decisions. Not too long ago, a little more than a year ago, I got a call on a Sunday night. I was the emergency room chaplain on call, and they said, we've had a man who has had a major heart attack, and he's 60 years old. We'd like for you to come to the hospital and minister to the family. Well, 60's just a little too close for comfort. It's just like, really? Okay, so I went. I got there, and they handed me the chart that they give us, and I recognized the name. It was a friend of mine that I had had a rather lengthy conversation with that afternoon about 5 wishes. And he had asked me if he could have my booklet. I would love to tell you that I said yes and it was all filled out, but that would not be the truth. I said, no, it's the only one I have. I'll get another one for you and bring it to you next week. I went in to see his wife, and every question that the doctors and the nurses came in and asked her, she had an answer. And I was quite surprised. She knew what funeral home, she knew that he didn't want to be on a machine, she knew everything. And she said to me, Bob, it's the strangest thing. She said, he came home today and he told me that he had talked to someone about some booklet, and we spent all afternoon talking about it. And she said, I went to cook dinner, he went for a walk, he didn't come home. She said, but it was like God intervened because I knew everything he wanted to do. And I thought to myself, this is a gift to this wife. That what he gave to her was an invaluable gift. So I started telling people as I go around, and by the way, I always carry more than one now. I started telling people this is a gift to give to your family because there are some decisions that have to be made sometime. And this affords them to move forward without guilt, without questioning, without shame. They know what your wishes are. This booklet, when we finish it in a few weeks, you will have an opportunity to sign it in front of someone and have someone witness it. And we'll do that in here. And if someone doesn't want to witness it, don't sign it. Wait for me, sign it in front of me, and I'll witness your signature. But anybody that wants to do this, I want to make it possible for you to do that. And then share it with everybody. And start this Thanksgiving talking about this crazy guy at my church actually conned the pastor into letting him talk to us about this. Whoever heard of talking about end-of-life issues at church? I can't think of a better place to talk about it. We all know where we're going if we have accepted Jesus as our Savior. But the reality is, with modern medicine and all the things that are available, sometimes they keep us alive and keep us from that natural death beyond what we would want as individuals. So, and it's your choice. This is not to say, keep me off of any artificial respirator or anything like that, because if you want that, you mark that in here. This is your wishes. Start this Thanksgiving talking about this. And say, I'm going to get back to you by Christmas time because it'll be finished by then. The state of Florida requires this form. This is a do not resuscitate form if you decided that that was your wish. Hospitals, doctors, all like to have this form. And it has to be on this size paper, and it has to be yellow. It can't be white, can't be blue, it's got to be yellow. I don't understand why, but that's the rules. I got enough things I'm trying to change in the world that right now I can't take that on. Your doctor signs it, and it becomes official. In my house, my wife and I and her mother, who lives with us, all have one of these, and it's tucked right in with our 5 wishes. Now, if you don't have it, and all you have is this, at least the person who you've designated to make decisions for you knows what your wishes are. And you can show this to a hospital emergency room. It is a legal document in the state of Florida. And in some states where I present this, it's not, like Massachusetts, but I still encourage people to do it because it's putting down your wishes, and maybe you'll get a doctor that will recognize it. But in the state of Florida, it is a legal document, but you're better if you have this with it. We can give them to you here. I'll get them for you. Yeah, because it is like a state secret. I will tell you that. But I'm pretty savvy at getting a hold of them. So I'll get some if you would like. You okay. Emergency room nurse, right? Yeah. So it's and you need to have it. So just because you filled it out once and it was scanned in somewhere doesn't mean every hospital has access to it. Yeah. And you do have to have your doctor sign it. So, your doctor signs it to be, make sure that it's complete. But it's a good companion to this. In my house, we keep these in manila folders. Each one of us has our own manila folder, and they're kept in a hot file, which is one of those little plastic things that you screw to the wall. I didn't know what they were called, but apparently that's what they're called. And my mother-in-law, who's in her 90s, when an ambulance comes and takes her in the middle of the night, like happened a few months ago, we just pull out the whole manila folder and stick it under the belt, and off it goes with her, so that it's always with her, okay? Because this is her wishes. And so it's important, and I know I'm repeating myself, but we've as a society been ingrained that these are top secret. And we want to change that to get people to share their care choices. Because when you go and a hospital has to make a decision, they're going to make a decision to administer whatever heroic efforts in an event to try and save your life, regardless of how slim the possibility is, unless they get another directive. When we travel, we take them with us. We do. We put them in the pocket of the car, and everybody in the car knows where they are. And if we have a bad accident, we hope someone will find them. Now, we don't do that when we're traveling around at home, which is, they say most accidents happen within 25 miles of home, so probably we should. Yeah. And they will ask you, and this is acceptable in the state of Florida. Yes. To me, it would be just as effective, because if you look on the very back cover, and we'll get to this later, at the very bottom, where there's a pair of scissors that clip, it's for your wallet, and that's for people who are my age. people who are younger like you, who keep everything on your iPhones, I think that you could scan it and have it available by your iPhone. If this is acceptable, I can't imagine that's not. And if it's on your iPhone and your iPhone is locked, we have a problem. So share your code with someone.
You can still put it under ice in case of emergency. Because that comes up. Not my finger on ice.
Are we on target here? Because you work with this day in and day out, so you know.
I've never had the yellow slip, but I signed a directive there at the hospital.
As long as it's like,
Wait, I want everyone to hear.
I was asking her, what if you've been to Waterman or Leesburg several times and you've signed a directive there at the hospital, but never had one of these yellow slips? Do they keep that on file?
well, at Waterman, in your chart, every time you come in, you have the same chart, and at the top it'll say DNR or it'll say full code. But if you come in and we don't know who you are, we're gonna, if you come in as a Jane Doe, we don't know that, so we're gonna do everything.
And again, because I'm old, I don't trust technology. So even if they told me that it was scanned in, I would want to double check.
Can I see you and let me tell you?
Yeah. So it's good to double check and triple check, but it's also good to let a family member know. And this is a great tool. We're going to be sitting down with family members over the next few weeks that maybe we don't see on a regular basis. And what a great tool to say, let me show you what we're doing at my church. We're talking about how I want to be cared for in the event of an illness. Now, you'll notice that this program was designed by the Florida Council on Aging. So a lot of people think, oh, it's just for senior citizens. I will tell you that if it was just for senior citizens, we'd have some problems because people have accidents, people fall, lots of things happen to people that are not senior citizens. And so I encourage everyone. The Council on Aging even developed a program like this for teenagers so that teenagers would be able to talk to their parents about what they wanted. I've never presented that program because I keep pretty busy with this. But this is really, so for some of us older folks, when we're going to see our children, hand them one. We've got some extras. And say, I really would like for you to look at this. And then I'd like for you to sit down and talk to me about it. And even though maybe you're married and you have a wife that'll make that decision, or a husband, what if they're not around and someone asks me? I'm just the mom, I'm just the dad. But stranger things have happened. I would like to know what you want. And I want to tell you what I want. I want to go through my booklet with you. So this is a tool to approach probably one of the most difficult conversations that you will have. And if you can have a tool to guide you through it, and you're full of grace as you're having it, the salt won't sting. It won't hurt to have that conversation. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the very back cover. No, I'm sorry, the very front cover has your name and place for your date of birth. Please fill that out. Why your date of birth? Because that's another confirmation. Because, listen, my name is Robert Carscadon. That is a very long and difficult last name. Do you know how many Robert Carscadons there are? There's a lot. There's about 10. In the state of Florida. Yeah, so that's another confirmation for your loved ones and for anyone that's looking at this that it's you. It's not a foolproof, but it's another another way to confirm that this is for you. The 5 Wishes booklet is really the first advanced directive that talks about your emotional, personal, and spiritual needs. That's important. This does not talk about your spiritual needs. This does not talk about your emotional needs. The 5 Wishes booklet does. And it talks about how you want to be cared for. So it's an important document. As I've mentioned, to use it as a tool, it's a gift for your family, and it really puts the end of life guessing off the page. Have any of us in this room ever sat with a loved one, a friend, a family member at the end of life and not really known what that person wanted other than me? 2, 3 of us. It happens. And we have to know. My wife knows, don't talk to me. Sit there, hold my hand, don't yammer in my ear. And she won't. A lot of people ask, what happens if I want to update it? We update ours at home every year. Pastor Trevor was instrumental in updating mine the last time. He introduced a song at church, and I said, oh, I like that song. And so I added it to my list of songs I want sung at my funeral. And my wife said, I don't think we can sing 42 songs. Because I can't sing, but I love music. So I reduced it, because I just kept adding. So you can change it. You can just put it in the shredder, and if you've given family members copies, tell them to do the same. Tell them you've changed a few things, and you'll send them another copy. Write void across it. It's not a permanent document. Take another one, fill it out again, sign it in front of someone to have them witness. In the state of Florida, it does not have to be a notary. So we can do it in here, as long as someone sees you sign it. So it's not permanent. And in fact, I encourage you always, every year, to look at it. Because maybe you've listed someone that you want to make the decisions for you, and that person is no longer able to make decisions. Or maybe you no longer want that person making decisions for you. Maybe they died. Maybe they're ill. I don't know why, but I just know that there's many states that do not require it be notarized. Some states do require it to be notarized, and they're listed on there. And there's some states that don't recognize this legislatively yet. But the Council on Aging is still working on those states. You're a resident of the state of Florida. You present it. They may not honor it, but the fact that you're a resident of the state of Florida and you have it, you have a better chance. And I find that, and for those of you that are in the medical field, I want you all to nod when I say this. I find that most people, when confronted, that are in the medical field with situations like that, are glad to have some direction. That even if it's not, quote, legal in that state, at least they know what your direction is, and that the family knows what you wanted. So nod up and down. Yeah, okay. So that's important. Any other questions so far? Okay, moving on. If you look at Wish 1 on page 4, the language in Wish 1 tracks the same language as most durable power of attorneys for health care. Notice I said for health care. This does not track the durable power of attorney for general, but for health care, it does. And that's why it seems like, oh, I thought they said this was going to be supportive. And, the language is what it is because this really is important. And so to get it accepted, it needed to track language-wise what a durable power of attorney for healthcare does. When you sign your booklet, this transfers the legal right to your healthcare agent. So if I have listed my wife as my first choice, if I'm not able to make decisions for myself, I've transferred that to her legally to do that. This form allows you to choose a second person and a third person. Why would they do that? Why would you need a second, much less a third person? Many, many reasons. They might have been in the same accident with you. They might have passed away already and you just haven't changed your document. So they go to the second and to the third choice. Notice at the bottom, there's a paragraph about picking the right person. Make sure that the person that you list, the person that you pick, knows about your wishes. That they not only know about them. I can pick Chris here, Christopher, and he's a good friend of mine. He usually sits 2 rows in front of me in church. I see him most Sundays when he's here. I like Christopher. He's a nice guy. He's got 2 little kids, seems like an upstanding guy. I could list him. But if I never share this with him, and someday they contact him and he's going to go, Bob who? And they're not going to say, the guy that sits 2 rows behind you at church. So whoever you choose, make sure they know that you have chosen them. And make sure that they are willing to accept that responsibility. Because I haven't asked Christopher. And he's going to make some decisions about my life. And maybe he doesn't want that responsibility. I have a niece that I love dearly that I wanted to put on this form. And she said, oh, Uncle Bob, no. I could never I said, well, you don't have to make the decision. I'm writing them all down here for you. No, I could not take that responsibility. She's not someone I put down, because if she's not willing to make the decision, if she's not willing to take that on, then I don't want to put her in that place. So it's important to not just make an assumption that whoever you put down will do it, but ask them ahead of time, can I put you down? Because you would have to follow my wishes. And if I say in my advance directive that I don't want to be kept alive by artificial means, I don't want to be hooked up to a machine, or I don't want this, even if you think I should, that you would honor my wishes. That's a hard question. And so you want to know that whoever you put down is going to honor your wishes. So make sure that each person that you put down knows that you have put them down and they're willing to do that. If you look on the opposite page, well, let's go back to that paragraph underneath where you named the person. They have to be 18 years old. You cannot put down your great-great-grandchild who's a toddler. They have to be 18 years old unless we all get up en masse and go out to the vans and move to Colorado. Then they have to be 21. But since we're not doing that, and in Florida, it's 18. Look on the next page, page 5. I understand that my healthcare agent can make healthcare decisions for me. I want my agent to be able to do the following. And they list about 10 things. in this document, if there's something that you don't want them to do, you just cross it off. You just cross it off. And then they cannot make the decision. So if we look at this list, move me to another state to get the care I need or carry out my wishes. Well, I was born in Florida, and I'm going to die in Florida. And I've never lived anywhere but Florida, and Florida's in my blood, and I do not want to be moved to another state. I just cross that out. That's all. Because there are people who feel that way. My father would have been one. Donate usable organs or tissues of mine as allowed by law. You may not want to donate your organs. Cross it off. Or you may only want to donate certain organs. Write it in. That's the beauty of this, is that it's customized for what your wishes are. Terry, right? Your booklet should look very different than Dawn's. I think. Because yours is going to be you. And Dawn's is going to be Dawn's. And hers will look very different from her husband Steve's. That's why each person needs to do one. Remember what I said about the talking by the bedside? I don't want it. My wife wants it. You'll not talk to me? Oh, you're going to talk to me. All the time I've talked to you, you're going to get even. Oh, well, how do you like that? She's gathering a list. I knew I shouldn't have told that. She's got the whole church coming over to talk to me. But look at this seriously and think about what your values are and what you believe God would want you to do. There are some people that on religious grounds would not want some of these things to happen. And there are some people on moral grounds that would not want some of these things to happen. And there are some of people who would say, do them all twice. So, again, as you're approaching that end of life, someone is going to come into your loved one and say, we could harvest the corneas. We could use the heart. We can use a liver. And this person is like, oh. But if they have this and you've had the conversation, they say, oh, mom or dad or husband or wife, they would want that. We've talked about that. They see that as a gift to give on to someone else to live on. Or, oh no, I know they wouldn't want that. They said they would never take a used organ and they would never want their organs given and they just don't believe in it. Okay, they don't have to wonder, did I do the right thing? Because you've told them your wishes. And then at the bottom here, if you change your mind, if you've written down your son and he does something to really upset you, and you decide, oh no, he's not making those decisions for me. Just do another booklet, write void across it, and put your daughter's name down. Or whoever. It doesn't have to even be a blood relative. What's the requirement of someone to be your health care agent? 18 or older. Don't have to be a blood relative. How many of you would choose someone who is not a blood relative? Yeah, some of us would. Some of us wouldn't. And that's the beauty of this. You get to decide your wishes. Okay, I want you to think about this, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to fill in your section. Fill in the name of the person. If when you ask them, they say no, that's okay. We've got other booklets, and this one's not signed. We can start over and ask someone else. But I want us to just take a couple of minutes just to give this some thought. Because like I said, when we finish this in 4 weeks, 4 sessions, I want us to be able to sign off, witness each other, and have a legal document. Yes? 16 Karen Watson, Florida. 18. Well, before we sign the back of it, we want to ask them. Okay? And if they say no, cross it out and write someone else that you've asked, or get another booklet. Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay. It's your wishes. This is all about you. Okay. And remember, it's not valid until it's signed and witnessed. Okay, it's not valid until it's signed and witnessed. Now, Steve is my good friend. He's teaching me to bowl, and that's a problem. 76 last night. That's not good. Okay. He's very good. He's not going to put me down to be his healthcare surrogate. Okay? He doesn't even have to ask. Okay? Because I bowl 76. Yes. Well, one of the things that you want to keep in mind, she said, I have children from out of state. So one of the considerations has to be who is going to be able to be closest that can make that decision, or who is going to be able to get here if a decision like that has to be made. And it could be that you have 3 children and you want to go through the booklet with all 3 children and explain. Susie lives down the street from me, so that's why her name is there first. And your name is second, and your name is third. It's not because Susie is the favorite child, even if she is, but it's because she lives down the street and the other 2 live out of state. Or a friend who lives closer that knows your wishes. But again, have the conversation with your family. I chose her because these are my wishes. She will follow them. And maybe their second or third choice. I'm not an attorney, but I know that when we moved here to Florida from California, that I was advised to get Florida state documents. So I did. So it's a living will. So it's a living will. Yeah, there are probably several documents. Mm-hmm. You have like a living will, and then a final will, a last will and testament, and a power of attorney document, and so forth. I don't know how it's different. I just know that that's what that my wife and I were advised. That when we moved to Florida. Absolutely. And because if he tells you, no, your documents are fine, you have peace of mind, and the $125 that you pay him is good for peace of mind. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Right.
So this is what this is for. It's a little nuance. All the time. We get it here at the church. Oh, no, no. We would play it, and it would be great. They'll never ask what you want to play at your funeral for your last day. So it's great. Have fun.
Yeah. This is not a will. This is your wishes for how you want to be cared for. And then the last wishes talks about your funeral. You get to have an input into your funeral. Like I said, my wife told me we can't do 42 songs. But I'm trying to become real good friends with Trevor so that he says to her, yeah, we can do 42 songs. There you go. There you go. But it doesn't take the place, like Pastor Joshua said, of your will and your power of attorney and your living will. This should complement it, and it goes beyond. Because remember, I said it is the first advance directive that deals with your emotional, your spiritual needs, as well as their physical needs. Most advance directives just deal with the physical. Yes, sir. Yeah, right. So this is not a will. Yeah, a will, as John said, is not usually read till after the funeral. This is really a gift to your family for those final days and when they have to call the pastor and say, we need to have a funeral. Okay.
You're talking about this with your family. I've talked to Christy about it. Tell her to do whatever you gotta do. Get a car battery, keep that thing going as long as possible. Yeah. So,
But some people want that. Some people want that.
some people may want to that way, but it gets you talking with the family members, because in that way they'll know what.
Remember what we said when we first started. Share your care choices. It's such a gift when they have to say, what do we do now? And they say, well, mom said, dad said, my husband said, they wrote down and I have it right here. You know, no guilt, no second guessing. You know, I was a caregiver for my mother for the last 11 years of her life. She lived with us. And we didn't have this conversation. We didn't have this conversation. We had lots of conversations. We didn't have this detailed conversation because we didn't, difficult conversations. We didn't talk about them. So I made decisions. I made decisions the best I knew how. I wish, when it comes to my mother-in-law, we've had the conversation. I know exactly what she wants. There'll be no, I hope I did the right thing. I will know I did the right thing for her. So it's truly is a gift. So next week we're not meeting because it's Thanksgiving. So take your 5 wishes, talk to your family, let them know what you're up to, and begin that difficult conversation. Don't fill out the rest of it because we're going to walk through it. But begin to have that conversation about the topic that no one wants to talk about. And you'll get branded as that crazy family member that we don't want to bring up. Yes. Yes, we have extra. See me right after and we'll give them to you. Yes. I don't have them with me tonight. I will try to have them the next time I come. Okay? Yeah, it's the craziest thing. They have to be yellow and they have to, because I was going to shrink them down and put them on a regular size paper. Oh no, it has to be that size and that color. Okay, I'm going to spread the word. That color and that size. Any questions or comments before we close for tonight?